Hey everybody, we are live. How's it
Hi,
going?
everyone.
We're
Hello.
having a little bit of a crazy time right now because our power just went out in the house, and so yeah, it's a little crazy right now.
Those are called technical difficulties.
Yeah, but welcome
In business.
to welcome to Seemingly Appropriate Podcast. I'm Val,
And I'm Larry. Happy you're
I'm
here.
Dave.
and this is our special guest, Dave. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Yay.
Hey, it's going well.
We are going to talk tattoos today. This is episode 6, Larry. 6 whole
That's
episodes.
amazing. We made it to 6.
We made it to 6. So today we're going to talk. What?
No, well, I mean, we've been gone for a couple of weeks. Life got a little crazy, and we still made it to 6.
Yeah.
So.
Well, last week there was a huge storm, and I was sick, so we couldn't do a show. Storm, that took power out to everyone for like days and days, and we thought we were okay. And literally minutes before we start doing this podcast, and the power goes out again. So a little crazy.
I think this podcast controls the weather.
Does
Maybe.
it?
Pretty
Maybe
sure it
if
is.
we do this enough,
It's
like
just
a wind
science.
thing. We'll bring the moisture every time we do a podcast.
We have that kind of power. Okay, so today we're going to talk all things podcast. You have a friend, is it Tristan? Is that how you say that? Said hi to you, Dave, over here on the side. If that's your
Oh, I know that
friend.
guy. Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in. We are going to talk all things tattoos today. So if you've listened to the show before or you've seen the show before, we kind of get into real talk, and we're going to ask Dave a lot of questions. We're going to let Dave tell some stories. 5 years ago, I was thinking I wanted a tattoo, but I was one of these people, Dave. I was one that I really want one, but I know I'm going to change my mind, and I don't really know what I want, but I know at some point I want one to commemorate my mom and her memory because she passed away. I bet this is like a lot of people that come to you, right? They're just like, I had this
Absolutely.
special moment in my life, but I'm not sure what I want to do. Tell me what I should do.
A lot of tattoo interactions with people is part of what we have to do is educate people of what possibilities there are. So if you have an idea that comes in, you have a general idea of what you want, but you don't know the potential what it could be. So there's a great deal of conversation back and forth that helps essentially trim the fat, chisel things out so you go from the big block of marble to the sculpted piece that you want.
It's funny, I 100% know everything you said is right, Val, and obviously Dave backs it up. I would never even consider a tattoo unless I knew exactly what I wanted. I wouldn't ask somebody what to do with my tattoo, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of people when they come up with their very meaningful tattoo and they get married to a design or an idea, they don't know how to break away from it. So when we open up options, or sometimes what's even harder when we limit options, they want to do, let's say, 3 images, then a bunch of names, but they want it super small. It's heartbreaking when you kind of crush their dreams of what they can't do. And it's a bit overwhelming when you show them what you can do. So have an open mind and willing to compromise a little bit really helps with the design process. So you get what you want, and then we're happy that we did a good job. We don't want to just, at least I would hope that any tattooer with their weight and salt isn't just going to tattoo you and send you out the door. Thanks for the money, and sorry you have that to deal with. Well, I think we're frozen.
How long have you been a tattoo artist, Dave? How long have you been in the tattoo world?
In the tattoo world, probably about 15 years. I've been tattooing for about 13 years. February is my anniversary date, so we're coming up on that.
Nice.
Well,
yeah, I started outside in a very small shop in Duncannon, Pennsylvania called Rat-a-Tat-Tats. I moved all over South Central PA. Then I went to Maryland, New Jersey, and Delaware. And then 5 years ago, I made the move to come out here to Utah.
It's interesting to me that you know the start date, or the commemorative date. Oh, there's power on it.
Hey, we have power. Let there be light.
Hooray! I don't know that every job, or I mean, so maybe it's not a job. Maybe that's not even fair to quite call it that, right? Because it's art.
It's definitely a lifestyle. Like this isn't a job I just clock in and clock out. I have traveled all throughout the country, and every truck stop I go to, somebody has to ask me, "Hey, man, let me ask you a question. Did your head hurt?" Yeah, it's everywhere I go. I have to answer that. If I go to a restaurant and the waiter has questions, like I'm always on as for a salesman. So it's not like I can just be like, all right, I'm done with this job and that's that. So as for like a lifestyle, it's definitely intense. Remembering the date, it was February 4th is my anniversary date. I did a 1.5 year apprenticeship, but tattooing years is kind of like dog years. For a 1.5 years, it felt like 3 years because I wasn't paid. So I mean,
well, this is Larry. I think we lost Val and Dave. Oh, but now Val's back, but Dave's gone.
Yeah, I think because we were all on sharing hotspots when the internet and the power went out, and now the power went back on, and so now he's got to get on a regular connection. So we're back. Sorry. Okay, so this is hopefully that's all with the technical difficulties, but
who do we need to sacrifice to keep the power on?
I'm willing to find someone.
All right. But yes, like I said, tattooing's kind of like dog years. So my 1.5 year apprenticeship, it felt like 3-4 years not being paid, struggling with my own ego. Because I started my apprenticeship when I was like 23, 24, something like that. And it's rough. Like you make all these crazy decisions. Is this actually going to pay off and get better? And so when it does get better, it's like a come to Jesus moment. Like, holy crap, I finally understand why I went through all this pain and all this struggling to finally get here. I can only imagine what it's like after 4 years of a hard school. You finally get that graduation. Like I made it. And it's a big achievement. So yeah, February 4th is a big deal for me.
Very cool.
So you said you moved from the East Coast to Utah to tattoo. So that's kind of a big change just in general. But when you come here to a very conservative place and your biggest thing is to put things on people's my gosh, I'm so frustrated right now with this connection. But you're putting things on people's bodies, which like, I got to admit, like up to 8 years ago, I was just like, I don't know that I'll ever have any tattoos because I don't know if I'll be able to get the jobs I want. I don't know if people are going to think like I'm a hoodlum or easy or like all these kind of, ideas and stereotypes that go along with people that have tattoos. And now you've given me like a whole sleeve that I've got.
Yeah.
Because have things changed a lot? What was it like coming here to Utah for the first time?
Utah actually really wasn't that bad. It's more of a generational conservativeship than it is more like it's like the hot word of political stuff. No, in generational sense from like 15, 20 years ago, in order for social survivability, you had to maintain some sort of conformation integrity. Like if you're a part of this group or town that you live in, you have to maintain that in order to thrive. Otherwise, they ostracize you. So if you're in a very Catholic area, you're in a very Republican area, whatever demographic it may be, if you do anything different, such as a tattoo, then they kind of label you. But as generations pass on, the intensity of viewing tattoos isn't as intense. 15, 20 years ago, you pretty much labeled a biker, a sailor, somebody of a lesser reputable situation or lifestyle. But as the popularity has risen, a lot of thanks is due to reality TV shows from Miami Ink starting out, LA Ink, and now Ink Master. A lot of people are being exposed that it doesn't have to be degenerates who gets tattooed. So going from one side of the country to the other really doesn't matter. It's more so if you're in an area where there's a lot of older generational people, then it'll be a struggle. But with Utah specifically, with the very intense, I guess, religious
Religion.
oppression, yeah, there's the counterculture to it. So the ones that really want you to conform, there's those that want to break out and break free. The awesome thing about tattooing is, I guess the awesome thing about it is that it just chips away at these hard lines, these hard battles that people have. If in this area of Utah, if you come out of the closet saying that you're gay, your family will kick you out, or that they really like put you on one side or limit you to one thing. That's just the way life is, because you can't take that back. You can't just turn off like a preference kind of thing. That's still really hard. Tattoos, and this is one of the joys about me doing tattoos. If I do something awesome on somebody, even that really hard conservative mindset, they see it and they actually enjoy the artwork of it. They're not as intense, like, oh man, I hate this, get out. Like, all right, I don't like tattoos, but I like this one. And it's a good way to kind of chip away at that hard stereotype, and it softens that line they draw in the sand.
I saw something neat when we were going through quarantine at the beginning of the pandemic, something that I didn't really realize before. And then you were explaining it to me, and I don't get it, but now I do get it, is you will never have a problem making money because people will pay for a tattoo before they will make their car payment. What craziness is this? And then I realized, like, I'm totally addicted. Luckily, I have you. But if you guys don't know this, Dave is my boyfriend. But this is a crazy, like, culture addiction kind of thing. Like, people will come and pay you before they will pay their livelihood.
Yeah, it's definitely an addiction mindset where it's very rewarding. If people say it's addicting, it's not like, it's not like a drug where you have to get one. But if you get a good tattoo, and then other people that see it, whether it's like that hard conservative ship, it's complete strangers, no matter who it is, and you have somebody come up to you and they, man, I really like that. It looks awesome. It's great. That's like having your hair done or your best outfit on every single time, and it just feels great. And when you have times of depression or change, such as a pandemic, people are really knocked down. They just want to finally get something new. They want to feel good about themselves, and a tattoo can really trigger that confidence and boost their self-esteem. Even for me personally, when I started out, maybe before I got tattooed, started getting tattoos, I was weird. I didn't know how to talk to people. I tried to connect, but man, there was a lot of misfires. But getting tattooed really brought out my gregariousness and my confidence. Now I can speak very boldly as opposed to like shutting down and just having poor volume control of my voice, just up and down. So yeah. So when you have these hard times, it feels great when you have a new tattoo that's like, man, this is mine. Nobody can take it away from me. Where the pandemic took a lot away from people, and sometimes just a routine. Sometimes you lost your job, and I know when I used to work in manufacturing, I was laid off 5 times total, 3 times in 1 year. And after that last time I got laid off, I got my first unemployment check. I spent it on a tattoo. I am tired of this life. I want what I want. That's mine. You can't take it away from me.
I have noticed, you both maybe could speak to this, but I don't know anyone who gets a tattoo. Like, nobody gets one tattoo and immediately they're thinking about the next tattoo. Is that true? Or are there people out there who are like, nope, I'm finished. I got it. I'm good.
Well, I think there's an old ancient secret. I might get assassinated for this in the tattoo world, but we put heroin in all our tattoo ink. Oh, cool. So you become addicted. And that's why they come in all itchy. And no, we don't do that.
My bones hurt. I have to get another tattoo.
Yeah.
Well, when I got my first tattoo, when I finally decided what to get, and I got it from our mutual friend Mike that I've known since elementary school, basically, and he is the owner of the shop that Dave works at, Studio Elev8. I got it back here, and so I figured I like it. I know I have it, but I don't have to look at it, and I can hide it if I need to, right, to be professional or whatever. And I had that one for probably about 6 months before I got another one And I played with it a little bit because I got a teeny tiny, like one on my ribs that you can't see that says hope. And I got it for a charity one. And then I got another one over here like 2 months later that you can't see on these ribs. And then I went to another charity event and got this little teeny tiny focus. And I was so proud of myself that I got a tattoo that people could see, but it's literally like, you know, teeny tiny. And then I think once you, like Dave said, once you get that confidence and you realize that this is something that you can control, and especially because I was going through so many things in my life at the time, this really has given me, my tattoos have made me feel whole. And I don't know how to explain that to anyone. People are like, oh my gosh, you just keep getting tattoos. What is it, rebelling? You got a divorce, and so now you're getting tattoos, you're dating people, like what's going on? When I first started dating Dave, I got like 3 messages from people like, Valerie, are you okay? Because you're getting tattoos, you're dating this skinhead. Like, what is going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, well, first of all, I was getting tattoos before I started dating him. Second of all, he's not a skinhead.
I just shaved my head. I hate hair.
He just shaves it because he hates hair, but he also has a really amazing tattoo on his head. But I think people automatically like associate like rebelling with tattoos, when for me, my tattoos, all of my tattoos that I've gotten have been very healing. They all mean something to me. And they have kind of like put pieces back into my life. And they're what I can control. This is, you know, what I control. My Miles Morales that I got, which was Dave's first tattoo that he gave me, was a sign of strength for me. And so I think a lot of people use it as that, but it's true. Like he'll be tattooing this arm tomorrow, and I'll already be like, okay, so there's this thing that I want you to do next.
Happens all the time. It takes 5 years to think of the first tattoo, 5 minutes for the second one.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm looking for. That's the soundbite I wanted. Just Valerie, to clarify, when you say they're on your ribs and people can't see them, you don't mean they're in invisible ink. You just mean they're in sensitive areas, so you can't show them up.
I don't walk around wearing a bikini on a daily basis, and so they were basically for me. They were for no one else but me. And now, you know, I've kind of ventured outside of that because I was also afraid, because what I do for a living, it doesn't really necessarily go with, you know, my job, but I can cover them up if I need to. But I didn't ask. I kind of just kind of did it because it's what I needed to do for me to feel better about myself. We've talked about it before on the show. Like I have some mental health issues, but I also have body dysmorphia. And I got to tell you, like putting the tattoos on my body makes me feel like you're looking at something that I love, that I picked, and it takes away from the things that I don't like about myself. And so I think that's also a thing. Dave, do you see that a lot? Is like people covering up places on their bodies that they don't like with something that they find beautiful, and then they have more confidence?
Oh yeah, myself especially. I used to be a heavier weight, and I didn't want to be the fat guy at the beach, so I got my stomach tattooed. So now I'm the tattooed guy at the beach. But even recently, there's some people that I've done cover-ups. Like I'm an award-winning artist for doing cover-ups, and not just for bad tattoos, but even for scars. People who have like self-harm scars that at one point in time fit that life, and it's there. And now that things have moved on and they want to kind of put it underneath the rug a little bit, we can do that. My coworker and awesome great friend that I respect a great deal, Mike Johnson, he is renowned in several states. I think like 6 or 7 states now that surgeons will recommend him after women go through mastectomies to either have their nipples replaced, like tattooed back on so it looks like they're there, or just do a whole new like big tattoo that kind of covers up some of the scarring or things that they're just not happy with. So it's like a reclamation of oneself. They don't have to live in that past life that once existed. And that is a whole new level of joy, to just take back what you thought was lost or you couldn't get back.
You know, it's interesting because I don't have tattoos, and
We can change that.
Well, we could. The two of you are not the only ones, but it is. I'm just endlessly fascinated by how changing something on your skin definitely changes people, emotionally and inside. Like it's not. It seems to always be the case. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite stories when I first started tattooing, it was probably around one of my first maybe 20 or 30 tattoos. I didn't get my setup done right. Like it was still taking me like an hour or two to set up my workstation, which now I can do it in like 3-4 minutes. I was still kind of figuring stuff out, and this woman came in, and she wanted to get a small sunflower, probably about 2 inches round. And as we're setting up, talking about design, I was asking her, why is she getting this sunflower? And she was telling me a story how she married her high school sweetheart, and she worked her butt off to put him through college. I think it was like some sort of marketing or advertising, something like that. And he landed a pretty good gig, making like 6 digits a year, like right out the gate. Like, no, he just skipped all the intro stuff. But he traveled a lot. He was gone, I think, 7 months out of the year. And it was all divided up. It wasn't like 7 months in one shot. So she was a stay-at-home wife, and they didn't want kids. So when he came home, she had her, I guess, agreed responsibilities of the house is clean, dinner's made kind of thing while he goes make the money. Somewhere in their 15-year marriage, she wanted to get tattoos with her sister and her mom. Not matching ones, but they're all going to do it together, all first ones. And that's a big deal for the mom because she is of the generation where if you were tattooed, you were labeled or branded something negative. And she asked her husband if that was something he'd be okay with. And he had a very stern no, like almost a controlling no, like you're not going to do that, not in this house. And
Wow.
so she didn't get it. She went to the parlor with them, but unfortunately she couldn't partake because of the stigma. Turns out after 15 years, he had an affair with somebody else and fathered 2 children with that person.
Oh my gosh.
So his original wife ended up becoming the mistress. And I guess the way he did all the money stuff and the way he, I don't know legal stuff, but she got the short end of the stick. And in Duncannon, Pennsylvania, there's a small square. There used to be a little breakfast place that was right across the street from us. She worked there, and she hadn't had a job in 15 years. She didn't need one. And then there was a laundromat right next to the studio, and right above the laundromat was a crappy apartment, and that's where she lived. And when she got her first little bit of disposable income, she wanted to get that tattoo she couldn't get years ago. And that, for her, was like springboarding her reclamation, her independence. Like every time I tell a story, I get a little choked up, and even right now I'm doing
a little
it.
Choked up.
And that was a Saturday night, and that we were closed Sundays and Mondays. So I'm driving home, like I wasn't ready for this. Ah! It was so intense, but having that feeling and just being a part of that journey is intense for me, and I love it. When I used to work manufacturing, there was no attaboy or good job. You had more people telling you how much you did wrong or how bad you were, how you can do better. But if you do a good tattoo, man, that's a high that you cannot replace. And somebody just really appreciates what you put into it, and now they feel better. You're not going to get that anywhere else that doesn't involve like a very strong negative, such as the notorious highs of like a hard drug. Like once you get the tattoo, it's done, it's over, and it's there, and you have it forever.
Wow.
After that heartfelt story, I'm gonna poke the bear a little bit. Okay.
Sure.
Because over the last 8 years, things have kind of changed how people can pick tattoos. Because you used to okay, you have an idea, you go into a tattoo parlor, you kind of see what they can do, you guys have a chat, you design something, they come back, you put it on them.
Yes.
Now people can go onto the interwebs, and they can go to Pinterest, and they can go to social media, and they can see all these things, and they show them to you. What's the difference between what you see on social media versus what can actually be done? I didn't know that artists are faking their tattoos.
Yeah.
on their sites, and that they can touch them up with all the photo things that we make ourselves look better, and people go in and they don't get what they want. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so back in the day when you would pick stuff off the wall, and when you had that was the design you got, and now it's replaced with Pinterest. It's still a design. It's the same thing that's on the wall that 30 people might have. Pinterest, you show something that 30 people might have. The big difference is what's on the wall. You pretty much see what you can get. Like, that's the size. You can't go any smaller. That's just the way it is. Or at least it won't last, or the longevity of it's going to be very compromised. But yeah, unfortunately with the internet, tattoos are photoshopped and they are doctored. So they have these really fine line, small tattoos, and sometimes they're not even tattoo. They're just an image placed right over, or the tattoo is doctored. The tattoo community is pretty tight. If you steal somebody else's work, we know about it. There's a website for that. Oh man, what's it? It's on Instagram. I have to think of it. The other one is called Tattoo Truth Fairy. And that's where you pull out the tattoos that you'll see that when they're freshly done, they're doctored. And somebody will have a photo when they're healed out, and you'll see a very noticeable difference. And what the tattooer sells as what you can do, but really that's Photoshop or some sort of editing program. And
so people have to be careful, right?
Oh yeah, that's why I say if you have a tattoo idea, definitely be prepared to have some sort of compromise. Doesn't mean you have to throw all of it away, but realistic expectations so the tattoo lasts longer, so it doesn't become a blur in a short amount of time.
Yeah, people will send me pictures all the time now that they know that you're my boyfriend and that I have these tattoos. They'll send me these pictures, and now that you've shown me kind of what realistically is a tattoo online and what's not, most of the pictures that my friends tell me, oh, this is so cool. Do you think I could do something like this? And I'm like, that's not real. Like, those colors aren't real. That is boosted with, an app. That's way too small. Like, you have brought me into this world where I am behind the curtain. And
Yeah.
I know all, not necessarily like the fun is gone, but like, I know like how to break these people's hearts, because they do. Most of them go on Pinterest and they want like this arrow, right? That you see everybody's got like an arrow or a feather or a something. And I'm like, that's not going to last.
Right.
That's watercolor. It's not going to last. So for me, it was very frustrating when I first started working with you with tattoos, because in my mind, I wanted something because I would see it. I would see it all over the internet, and then you would be like,
that conversation.
And my heart would be broke, because I'm like, why don't you just do it? I'm the customer. I'm always right. I'm paying you. Why aren't you going to give it to me? But you are a good artist, and you're not going to do something that's not going to last, because it's your name as well. But there are a lot of artists out there that will just take your money and give you that tattoo. So that leads me to my next question. That's not it. Let me get the right one. How do you know when you have a good artist? Like, not everybody can go to you. So how do you find a good artist?
Of course, word of mouth is always going to be the best, I guess, statistical factor. If you have 100 people saying this guy's awesome, then give them a shot. At least consider what they're doing. Check out their Instagram portfolio, show up in person, and even check out their personality, because that can play into it. Sometimes it doesn't quite click of what your idea is trying to convey and how they can put it on paper, then put it on skin. And sometimes that doesn't match up. But you definitely have to do your research on it. Definitely ask around. And sometimes there's an artist that's really good, but sometimes he's not for you. We had a big issue when I was in Delaware. There was this big name tattooer, Steve Wimmer, and one of my coworkers at the time, Paul Todd. They pretty much do realism, like color, black and gray realism. And people hear how good they are, and they'll go to them and ask them for lettering or American traditional style tattoos. Like, it's not to say that your idea is bad, but these people aren't skilled in it. So you have to find those who are more proficient with it. But definitely not all tattooers are created equal, and there are ones that aren't that great. And I don't care what the price is. It's not worth it if it's permanent.
Jenny says she's loving this conversation. So freaking enlightening. Thank you, Jenny.
That's nice.
I love her.
If you guys are listening to us live and you have you have questions, please ask them. Dave will answer your questions.
Yeah, maybe. Jenny, ask your question if you have one, because I do. I have one. I am curious, Dave. Like, there's just like there's bad everything. Bad journalists, bad plumbers, bad tattoo artists. What kind of happens? Do they just slowly kind of dry up? Does the work dry up for people that aren't great at it, or do they just move around a lot so they don't get discovered? Or, how does that, I mean, it seems a hard thing to negotiate. And then if you have a horror story about somebody, gosh, I've got this terrible tattoo now. I'm sure that has to happen sometimes.
Yep. A lot of it is the artist's responsibility to be at their best potential. They have to do better. They have to be more open-minded. We are cursed with the right and wrong side of ego and narcissism kind of thing. Like, oh, I know I'm good, so I'm going to charge this much. Or they think that they're just going to charge as much because it's money and you're going to get what you get. And that's that. And it's trying to find that balance of when do you say, you know what, I could be better. And you have to really look at your own work. But if your ego's too strong that, no, I'm good enough, I'm doing fine the way I'm in, or where I'm at, people are paying the prices, and I'm independent, and that's just the way life is, and they don't want to change. I've had my teeth kicked in a couple times.
Not literally.
Not literally. No, a good friend of mine, Jake Kirk, who owns a shop in Duncannon, Pennsylvania. He looked at my work and just said, "Man, that is not great." And he critiqued it pretty hard. He wasn't wrong, and he gave me tips and pointers, and that feeling still resonates with me. And it's a phrase that I learned, that you can always learn something from somebody. A handshake is so important in this industry. Maybe not right now in the last 8 months, maybe a high five or whatever, but a distant one. But if you have somebody who can help guide you got to take that advice. And if you don't have the ability to be critiqued and move forward, you'll stay stagnant. And if you stay stagnant, then you kind of see where your worth is at. And that's where there's people that charge like $40-$50 for a tattoo that should be $300 or $400. You get what you pay for, kind of thing. Part of it, the clientele has a small amount of responsibility on themselves, that if they want to get tattooed, you got to pay the price. It's the way it is. Most artists I know are between $100 and $200 an hour, and that's just the way it is. And you should save up and get a good tattoo. But if you're trying to be cheap with it, there's always McDonald's in business, and those McDonald's tattooers are going to be available as well. And that's what you get.
We've got a question. David asks you, how do you feel, how do artists feel about finishing someone else's work?
The only time that I feel uneasy about it is if you have an appointment with somebody and they're booked out like 3-4 months and you just don't want to wait, you're a jerk. You can wait. I mean, it is what it is. But if there's somebody else, let's say the tattooer moved, you're not happy with whatever it is, no, come on in. I'll be more than happy to work with you. I think any artist should be that way as well.
What's like the worst thing you've ever had to fix? Because you specialize in cover-ups.
Yes.
And so a lot of people will come to you and they're like, I got this, it's awful, or I hate it because it meant this to me and now it doesn't. But like, what was one of the worst things you've ever had to try and cover?
This really awesome guy I used to know in Delaware. He used to be an addict, and then he became clean, and he joined a motorcycle group. I think they're called the Phoenixes. I think it was plural, like Phoenixes, or I think it was just Phoenix Motorcycle Club. And he wanted the patch tattooed on his arm, and there's a lot of black. It's super black. His addiction, I think, was a harder drug and alcohol, if I remember right. He went through a recovery program, and then after a couple of years, he thought he could moderate himself with alcohol, and I thought he did. Like he wasn't like falling off the wagon, if that's the right term for it, or getting back on the wagon. I forget how it goes, on or off. But he was able to like self-govern himself pretty well. But I guess the group said they disagreed in a sense. So they kicked him out, and he took it pretty hard. And he wanted to get this huge black patch covered up. It was a half sleeve, huge. I was like, okay, wow. I can cover. Yeah, it was big. And I told him I can cover it up, but you have very limited input and options. So I pretty much came up with an idea that would work. It was a rooster fighting a snake. So I can't really think of any other way to get rid of this that isn't going to look like an obvious cover up. And he was fine with it. He really didn't care. He didn't have much of a pushback. So that really helps out with the compromise situation. But that was a tough one. I wasn't sure if I was going to pull that one out. I'm pretty sure that was probably about 6-7 years ago now. I think I could probably do a better job of it now since time has passed. So I'd like to go back and see if I can still make it even better than what it once was.
Has anybody ever come to you and wanted you to do something that you just couldn't do? And you said, look, this is just not my thing, but I know somebody else that can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. If, again, it goes with that ego thing. If you can't do realism, don't do it. I think my first 4 years of tattoo, and I had that bad ego. And if there's anybody that I tattooed in those first 4 years that's watching this, I'm so sorry. I'll do what I can to fix it. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, the first 4 years is a little bit rough. But as for seeing by maybe year 5 through year 8, I wasn't great through doing realism. So I'd suggest one of my coworkers that was better at realism. Hey, this guy can do it. And I'd rather you see get a good tattoo and have a good review of the shop than me try my best and maybe not get that best review. Throughout time, I've worked on it. I've attended seminars. One of my favorite clients, Naisa, she wanted a black and gray portrait of her dad. I knew it was super important for her. And black and gray realism was something I struggled with for a while. And I actually paid for her to get tattooed by my buddy Mike so I can see what he does and learn from him. That kind of education is invaluable, and it's made me better. It's been a great experience for both me, the client, and our advancement as a shop.
Your friend Trustin had a comment about being aware with tattooing scar tissue.
Yes. Yeah, not all scars are created equal, and that can be that's tricky. You can't look at a scar and say it's going to react a certain way. So if we're doing scar cover up, sometimes the scar is very calloused and thick, and it just takes 2 or 3 times to get the ink in. Other times the scar is kind of thin and sensitive. It can be really painful. It can go either way, and you won't know until you cross that bridge. So if I have to do like a harder scar, I usually have a conversation that prefaces the session prior, like, hey, if this doesn't take, we might take 2 or 3 times to get it in there. So be patient, but we'll get it done. But very rarely is there a time where a scar can't be covered up. The only real issue is like if there's texture to the scar, if it's raised up, if it's not as flat as it should be. I'm currently working on a gentleman right now who had a really unfortunate incident when he used to work at I forget what manufacturing job he was at, but his arm got stuck in a big piece of machinery, and a good portion of his right arm got chewed up pretty good, and we're covering that up with a black and gray shepherd, not shepherd, Australian shepherd. Is not quite a wolf breed dog, but he's law enforcement. They consider himself shepherd. They kind of bring people in.
Have you ever had anybody come in for a tattoo and they think they're all good and tough, and then you start tattooing them, they're like, I can't finish this. Like, this hurts too bad.
I think we've all been there. I know my buddy Jake, he's tattooing my chest. And when I was living in Delaware, I drove 4 hours to get to a shop, and I could only sit for an hour and a half. I just did not have a good day. I don't know if I didn't sleep well, I didn't eat well. But I was like, this is just ungodly awful. I need to go. So that was a long 4-hour drive back. I was like, oh. Oh, I couldn't make it.
That's a good thing. Like if you've never gotten tattooed before and you're thinking about doing it, or maybe you've only gotten a small tattoo and you're thinking about getting a bigger tattoo, like what are the things that you need to prepare and do before you go and get one? Because I didn't think about these things before I went to get one.
I definitely want to eat and drink well, for sure. I think all of us are on the same page. I think we don't need to politicize it or anything, but if you're hungry, you're cranky. And if you're cranky and somebody's stabbing you, you're extra cranky. So maybe have a cheeseburger, something beforehand. That keeps your crankiness level a bit reduced.
For absolute novices, I think there's this idea that you go get drunk and then get a tattoo. That's not accurate, I believe.
No, that's old style tattoo, biker style stuff, like just the shot of courage and things like that. If you have a literal shot of alcohol, you'll be fine. If you have a beer, you'll be fine. But if you come in kind of staggering or a bit much, there's a lot of complications with it. One, it sucks tattooing a drunk. Like they're moving around, they think you're best friends, they breathe right in your face. It's awful. And back in the day when I used to tattoo drunks, I used to rob them essentially. I would charge way through the roof, and I'd get double the money, and they would do it, and that's just the way it was. So I don't want to be a scumbag anymore like I once was. So I just deny service. If you're coming in like that, I'm not dealing with you. But now it's more of a liability for legal reasons. They're not of sound mind, so to keep shop integrity and out of the courtroom, can't do it. But also, if you had a few shots or had a few beers, it does thin the blood. And when I put the ink in, it bleeds right out. So I was like, what's the point then? But now that alcohol is not the problem anymore, it's usually pills. It's Xanax, benzodiazepines, painkillers. They're not going to help you out. They just make your mental state numb, but we still have to suffer the consequences of you physically squirming around.
Interesting. We're going to start running out of time, but I still want,
a tattoo?
No, I have mine all planned out. We can talk about that sometime. But we've heard all these cool things about tattoos. I still want that horror story of the tattoo gone awry. Somebody who was like, "Oh my gosh, my ex just cheated on me while I was."
I have one. I was in Delaware, and this dude came in the studio, and he said he wants to get his girlfriend's name tattooed on his neck, Savannah. It started way back here in the ear and came straight over through the throat.
Oh, no.
He was telling me he wants to prove his love to her because she's the one. They had their ups and downs. They've been through a lot in this 6-month relationship, which red flag.
Wow.
We get SAVA. He's in mid-sentence telling me how great she is, opens up his phone. She breaks up with him via text message. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do? You want me to keep spelling Savannah and then you just get a hamster and name it Savannah and that's why you got it? Or it was so awkward. He was just like,
what did you do?
It's just finish it, man. We'll get through it. Like, okay, pal. Good luck. So if you're out there, man, I hope you're doing all right.
That's a great story. Horrible story, but horrible.
Never get your significant other.
Never.
Don't get their name tattooed on you. Don't go get matching tattoos.
No.
Like there's just things that you don't do because you're jinxing yourself. Like don't do that. You can go get tattoos together. Just don't make them match.
Yeah. Val is frozen now, Dave, but we're still here. We think she'll come back.
Frozen?
You're unfrozen. Welcome back.
Okay. Your friend Tim says you need to go out to the East Coast next year because Hulk needs finished.
I will be out there end of October. I guess I'll talk to him on Facebook.
I don't know what else you have planned, Val. I still have a couple of questions that I got to get out.
Do it. Ask.
So
yeah, ask your questions.
I know that Dave, Salt Lake has a you mentioned the counterculture, and I know there's a fairly successful, well, there's Corona now, but there was a fairly successful tattoo convention that's in Salt Lake that's well attended.
Yes.
I guess this is almost a dumb question, but I don't know anything. Is there really good quality artists here? Does Salt Lake really have a good array of tattoo artists?
Oh, there's a bunch of great artists that are in this valley. The Shop 27, Shop Painted Temple. I think the one artist, Vic Beck, owns several studios. I'm not sure which ones he owns, but anything he touches is essentially gold. I used to work at Big Deluxe. They're a pretty good studio as well. There's a lot of great shops in the valley. And again, artists all have their strengths and weaknesses, and that's really the thing you have to really narrow down is find out that one artist that works for you. So if you go to one of these other studios and there's a guy like Nick Archer who does incredible neo-traditional work, he just doesn't suck at anything really. But if you go to him with like maybe some sort of abstract pinstriping, he may or may not say if he's the kind of guy for you, but he's a reputable guy that'll tell you who is good. And there's plenty of guys that are like that.
Is there
and what's your shop? You need to tell everybody your shop again.
Yeah,
we're Studio Elev8. We're located in South Jordan. We're a private studio in a townhome at 3752 Azara Lane. We are appointment only, so the best way to get a hold of us is through our website, studioelev8.com. There's myself, Bailey Bateman, and Mike Johnson. We're a pretty well-rounded team of about 30 years experience between the group of us.
What was your other question, Larry?
Oh, what is there like is there like the Michael Jordan of the tattoo world or the LeBron James of the tattoo world? Are there like superhero artists out there?
Oh, there's guys out there that make me just want to quit tattooing. If I'm not that level, like what am I even doing? Like it's ridiculous. And like every like maybe 3, 4, 5 years, like there's somebody new that comes out just kicks the crap out of people. One of these big name guys is Mike DeVries. He's becoming pretty integral to Studio Elev8. We might be seeing more of him here in the Salt Lake area. Can't say definitive quite yet, but he's an amazing tattooer. That's he did like a half sleeve on Sylvester Stallone. He's traveled the world. He's made all kinds of instructional DVDs. Amazing tattooer. Guys like Ralph Nonweller, Yogi Barrett, Debbie Jones. Brennan Herrera. There's a bunch of guys out there that are just absolutely killing the game at whatever specialty they do, and it's just staggering how good they are. We try to use them for reference and inspiration without copying.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely rock stars out there.
Well, I mean, I know there are, but I like hearing you tell me that because I don't know, and maybe the listeners don't know. The other question I have is, if somebody's unsure about a tattoo, would you, if somebody's like, I don't know if I really want that, do you kind of advise them to hold on or to try it? Like either go for it or do they, maybe sit it out a month?
There are some people, yes, some people no. You can't push everybody into the pool and hope there's water. Some people, yeah, dude, you just got to do it. Like there's no way you're gonna know what this is like until you just do it. And it's reading their personality. If they already have kind of like a negative mindset, I don't know if I want to do it. I like it. It's not for me. Then definitely don't. Yeah. It's usually the impulsive people that are like, I kind of do, but I don't, or that are more problematic. If you get somebody that's like, man, I really want to get this done, but I am terrified of how it's going to change me. I want in my chair. Like you're the person that I can speak with confidence that I will definitely change your life for the better. Like it'll be a great experience as a tattoo and for you as a person.
I definitely think you should listen to your tattoo artist as well. It's kind of like going in and getting your hair done, or having a professional at any other space. They know what they're doing. They know what they've seen. I did not think that I wanted color tattoos like that. Just, I'm a black and white kind of person, black and gray. And I trusted Dave. And he said, just trust me, this is going to look great. And I don't know why I didn't see. He saw everything on me before I saw it. And so if you find the right artist, it is like any other artist. They see it before you see it. So if you trust them and they know, your personality, like Dave said, everybody has a different personality and they know what you like, they're going to take good care of you, because again, it's their name. If they don't do a good job on you, they're not going to get more work. How many people stop me every day because of my birds and, set up an appointment? It's crazy.
Yeah. There's an Instagram page called If Tattoos Were Food. So you have somebody says, I like pizza, I like steak, I like ice cream, I like shrimp, put it all in a blender, make it happen. Not a good idea. Like, all those ideas are great individually. Like, hey, you want a rose, you want a name, you want a portrait or whatever it is. And you try to put it on, let's say, your thumb. It's not going to happen. You can't do all that. You kind of got to pick and choose. So if you think of it that way, it might help. Like, okay, I do like all these things, but maybe they shouldn't all be together.
Cool. Well, thank you, Dave, so much. That was fun.
This was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
It's very cool.
Thank you guys so much.
There's all this controversy in the world. It's kind of nice to have a conversation that's not about, no one's dying, no one's been abused. Yeah. It's kind of a refreshing, good thing.
Yeah, it was a nice, fun chat. And we hope that if you liked today's episode, you share it with other people, whether you got to see it live here on Facebook and YouTube, or whether you're going to be listening on our stream. Thank you so much. We have a special episode that we're going to be doing on Thursday night. So look for that, because we're going to go from fun tattoos right into talking about the show Cuties on Netflix. We are going to have a couple of guest speakers on the show, including Larry and myself, 2 other people. And we are going to get into the good, the bad, the ugly of Cuties, of the world around Cuties, of Netflix, of the politics. We're going to deep dive into it. So we hope you will join us, but have a good night. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.